Well, once, twice, three times a charm, I guess, Paul. I've been trying to connect with our, and I'm not going to admit that I'm the most tech savvy guy in the world. However, we are now live. As you guys know, we had the broadcast of the Buffalo Bills New York Jets game this past weekend, and we also did our post game. And after that, Paul and I were tired. I wouldn't say drunk. We were tired. But nonetheless, the Bills eked out a 17-16 win, and it was really fun calling the game, Paul. I had a really good time doing. I can't wait to keep doing that this year.
Oh yeah. It was exhausting though. Like you get done and you realize you've been talking for like 4 or 5 hours, like consecutively. It is exhausting. But thank you to everybody joining us here on YouTube at 10:25 Eastern Time. Again, we are running about 25 minutes behind schedule, so apologies there. We're kind of
Mm-hmm.
hoping to get this little guy off the ground a little earlier, but that's okay. So as you can see, we're going to talk New York Jets breakdown, offensive changes, lots of stuff going on. Hey, Apex, hey, Chris Spencer, what's up? Lots of stuff from the game to go over. I know we talked a lot about the game in the post game, so thank you to everybody that watched the post game. Great numbers on the post game show. But after the game, sometimes you need a little time away to think about and like absorb everything that you've seen. Because when you're in the heat of the moment, calling play by play, it does take a minute to step away and kind of see what exactly happened. Hey Scott, good evening, Tom. So Mario, what was if you had to go back and I know we did the post game, what was the first thing that came to your mind the next day or the day or two afterwards where you're like, oh, I actually, we didn't talk about this. I'm excited to talk about it. Was there anything that kind of like jumped to the front of your mind?
Well, the one thing that I wanted to do, because we always try to compare this to previous Bills teams and Bills regimes, and I know the title of the stream for tonight, we're going to be talking mostly about the offense and what's going on with this offense. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions what's going on, and I wanted to definitely look at the snap counts. One of the things that I wanted to do was to check out the snap counts of both the offense and the defense, and also to see kind of, usually Thursday's the day we do the preview for the next game where we start to talk a little bit about the next opponent for the Buffalo Bills. But I was just sitting there, I'm going, you know what? We talked a lot about the four turnovers that the offense had and still ended up winning the game. But you and I both talked about it afterward on the phone a couple of days later. We were talking, I think it was Monday, actually, it was Monday, it was the next day. That there was an interception called back, and then there was another pass that Allen threw at the goal line that probably should have been picked, where the Bills end up getting their first points of the game.
Right.
So if you take those six possible turnovers, I mean, the Bills could have dropped 35 on this team. I mean, every drive got stalled by a turnover, and it's one of those things that once you start playing elite talent, it's not gonna be good enough. Those turnovers are gonna turn into points for the other team. Your defense is not gonna be able to hold so much as they've been. So that was the one thing that I kind of when I took a step back and thought about the game. That's what I thought of. What was the one thing that came to your mind after the game? After the dust settled Monday morning, you woke up. What happened?
So I wanted to go back and kind of unpack a lot of those first three Bills possessions, right? Because it was pass, 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 pass. The thing that bothered me most was in the heat of the moment, as you're calling the game, you realize that they've run a lot of pass plays, but you're like, man, that's got to be like at least seven. And you don't know. Like, you're not keeping track of how many consecutive pass plays because you're just, they got a couple first downs, they're moving the ball. They're like, oh, well, they'll probably run here. Nope. Nope. They checked out of that run play. Now they're going to a pass again. What was it, 18 or 19 consecutive pass plays to open up the game? Just a crazy number. And I wanted to go back and look at those first three possessions that kind of made up all those consecutive pass plays.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the biggest thing that I wanted to kind of dive into, because I know Dable had made some comments about it, and to kind of extrapolate some of the things that he had mentioned in the press conferences the few days after, was that he keeps talking about his system being matchup based, right? So what they wanted to do was they wanted to get the Jets in their base defense and then not let them leave the field. That was their whole idea. They said, listen, if we can get their base if we can get their base out there, they put out 21 personnel, because they're like, okay, this will work. We got Patrick DeMarco. We can go anywhere. So we'll put out 21 personnel and we'll be fine. And we're just going to motion stuff all over the place. And, we're just going to see if we can exploit the exterior of their defense. And I don't think it went like they thought. They moved the ball, right?
Yeah.
They were able to move the ball, but that did not go the way that they thought. And I really think that Josh Allen's going to go back and say, yeah, 19 consecutive pass plays is a mistake. I need to manage that game better, because he checked out. He made at least 5 checks to check out of run plays. And that's on Allen. That's all development. And I'm okay with swallowing that pill to Josh Allen's development. If he's making changes and this is what happens, I'm okay with that learning curve.
Yeah. But when you think about it, 21 personnel also works with TJ Yeldon in the game.
Sure.
Especially if one of the audibles is to send your running back out wide. Now, we had talked at length that the reason why you do that, the reason why you split out a running back, is to almost kind of cheat to find out what the coverage is. Now, if you split out DeMarco and they put a corner on him, you're kind of tipping your hand to Josh Allen to say, hey, listen, they're going to be playing zone. If you put DeMarco out there and a linebacker goes running out there, well, that's his responsibility. They're going to be playing man. With the way that Greg Williams dials up blitzes, it didn't seem, at least to me when I was watching the game, that he was very comfortable with doing that, because one of the things you have to do when you blitz a lot is play man behind it. He didn't want his guys turning his back to Allen if he happened to escape the pocket. That was one of the things. So Allen probably came to the line, noticed that nobody was blitzing, then spread guys out. And that's fine. I mean, that's fine that if he wants to do that. But one of the biggest strengths of Josh Allen is his play action game, and he needs to start getting the run game going maybe a little bit earlier in the game to realize that that's one of his strengths, is the play action. But if you throw 7, 8, 9 times in a row, they're not going to try to respect the run at all. So when you do play action, it's almost like a wasted motion.
Right.
You're turning yourself to the back of the defense. So
I agree. Yeah. So when they went heavy, when they went Gore and DeMarco in an I formation with the heavy set, and then they play action. That was the interception, right? That got called back.
Yes.
Yeah. So that isn't fooling anybody, because you had yet to run the football. Like, you're not fooling anybody there. Mm-hmm. You're not fooling anybody there. But who would have thought that week 1 we're seeing Josh Allen control this offense in those first 3 drives? Like, I understand it's scripted. Right, I get that it's scripted, but because you're on a play script, right? I get that these are plays that he's very, very comfortable with. He's got a look that he's going for. I understand that these are things that he's very confident in, but I wouldn't have thought that we would have seen Josh Allen take control of the offense like he did. Again, happy to deal with his development, right? If this is what we're going to get, and these are the mistakes he's going to make, that's okay, because I know that he's not brash with his mistakes. He makes mistakes and he wants to learn from them. And I think he learned a lot this last game.
I just thought it was very funny when they talked to Allen in the presser. One of the things that he said was, he said, "Yeah, we made all these mistakes and we did X, Y, and Z, and then we still went into halftime only down 6 points." So the defense was keeping him in it. He realizes that the defense was keeping him in it. They have the freedom to make some of those mistakes as a learning curve for him. And to be honest with you, a lot of the great offenses that operate in the NFL right now, there's a point in time where the quarterback will take control of the offense and start calling and seeing things that he likes. And the one thing that we talked about earlier was I know it's a little bit different, but the way that, Mitch Morse was gone all camp, pretty much. Now, that may have accelerated Josh's learning curve as far as protections go, how he's going to set protections. When he comes to the line now, that act of assuming more responsibility and calling protections for himself trying to trust his eyes, went to the second and third level, so he's able to say, okay, they're playing this type of look. This is what we thought they were going to play. And bear in mind, there's not much familiarity. The Bills and Greg Williams and the defense that's coming over, he hasn't seen any looks like that before. And Williams is very exotic with some of the things that he wants to do defensively. So Josh, for the most part, was able to move the ball, albeit through the air, which we didn't think for a couple weeks now that was going to be something. You know what I mean? He ended up moving the ball down the field. They got into a place where they basically left with the turnovers at least 9 points on the board. With the way that the game started to play out. But what do we got? We got a question in the. Sean, or what's the one you're talking about?
So Sean had an awesome question about O-line rotation that I want to get to.
Okay, all right. We'll take that right now then. Let's do that.
Perfect. Right, perfect. So actually that was V. Henley 1. Excuse me, it wasn't Sean. It was V. Henley 1. Should the O-line rotation continue, or do we need to pick the best 5? Well, let's again take a look at why that question's being asked, right? So Cody Ford played the first half of the game, and then took a back seat to Ty Nsekhe, right? You saw Feliciano start at guard. You saw Quinton Spain at the other guard spot. Mitch Morris was at the starting center. Of course, you had Deion Dawkins at left. And then, but that wasn't the starting line. Cody Ford had been your starting right tackle to start the game. Let's talk about that, right? So first half line to second half line. Obviously, game plan was very different. So we kind of have to take this conversation with a little bit of grain of salt, right? Because the game was managed very different in the second half as it was the first half. But the bright spot for me, and then I'll kick it back to you, Maury. The bright spot for me was I didn't realize how important Feliciano was to this line playing at the guard position, because boy, he moved in the run game and he looked great as a pulling guard. He was out there just taking souls as a pulling guard, and that was a big shock to me because I didn't realize he was that athletic. We hadn't really seen the Bills give a lot of those looks in the preseason, but once they decided that it was time to run the football and they started getting him and Morris out in space pulling, boy, they can move. And that's versatility I don't think Quinton Spain really gives you. So the biggest surprise.
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, well, no, I'm going to stop right there. Feliciano was a big surprise to me. I want to hear your feedback from that.
There's one particular play that's floating around on the internet. I know a lot of people have seen it already. It's they did a twist with Quinnen Williams, and he was helping out on Morse, and Williams came around, and immediately Feliciano goes and nearly put Williams on his back, just kicking him out, and then Allen ended up running the ball up the middle for I think a 7 or 8 yard gain. The experience he has with OG Bobby Johnson, he knows all the calls, he knows everything. You see him peeking in the backfield and touching Morse, to snap the ball for the shotgun calls and everything. It's like having another center out there. And with the versatility that he brings to you, being able to run and pull and do all those things you need to do in the offense, I think it was a steal for the Buffalo Bills. I remember you and I had a talk about this with Feliciano over the summer, and I said, this is the guy that this was one of their first signings, and 69% of his contract is guaranteed. There's a reason they did that. Bean and McDermott don't make, especially Bean, they don't make very, freelance signings like that of guaranteed money to guys unless they know that these guys are going to be contributors. I think the Buffalo Bills, knowing that this is a game where they can learn and grow, albeit a game that was very winnable, I don't think you rotate your tackles in that manner if you're playing the Patriots, if you're playing the Chiefs. I don't think you do that. I really don't. But I could just foresee. I know you and I had talked about this before. We love Quinton Spain. We thought he was a steal. There's a reason this guy was on the free agent wire for a long time in this offseason. So I think I'm going to steal a little bit of your thunder, Paul, and just say that I know what you're going to say. I know exactly what you're going to say. You're going to say, listen, here's what we need to do. We need to put Nsekhe at right tackle. We need to put Ford at right guard. And you need to kick Feliciano over to left guard. Because if he is that valuable a piece, and I know you're going to jump in on this, putting John Feliciano next to Deion Dawkins is much more valuable than putting Quinton Spain next to Deion Dawkins.
Yeah, that is 100% what I'm going to say. And I want to make sure that this is clear, right? I really like Quentin Spain. I really like Quentin Spain in a traditional blocking scheme. If you are asking him to go forward to pass block for you, he is a great guard. But if the Bills are planning on running this interior zone scheme, like when you saw Feliciano pull, you saw Morris pull, Spain isn't really going to be able to give you that versatility to pull as well as Feliciano, or even as well as Ford would be able to, playing at that guard position. So if you're in a traditional blocking scheme, I think Quentin Spain's a great guard to have. If you're running an interior zone scheme like the Bills flashed week one, I don't know if he's the best fit for you, right? So to me, I'm looking at Dawkins, Feliciano, Morris, Ford, Nasecki is your best five. But again, are the Bills going to land on that? That's asking a lot because you didn't see Ford play guard week one, right?
No.
And Feliciano, so I mean, it's asking a lot from the changes that were made. Do I expect to see that? No, I don't expect to see that. Is that my best five? It is. But we'll see where the Bills land on that. Where are you? Are you? I feel like we're on the same page here, Mario.
Well, you're gonna get a biased, as objective as we try to be a lot of times here at Hashtag Sports. There's just some guys that we gravitate toward either for good or for bad, and I like the Feliciano signing immediately. I just knew how nasty he was, and I knew how versatile he was. But I'm sorry. Let me take that back. I didn't know how versatile he was to play center. I remember being surprised, and when Morse was out, that he was the center. So he has that familiarity. He knows all the blocking schemes. He has all the protections down, and that's great. And the addition of him, but the Bills did themselves a great favor in getting so many offensive linemen this offseason. They have options now, things that they didn't have in the past. So it's not that we're down on Spain. We just like Feliciano. I just like Feliciano a lot better because of the versatility that this guy brings. You can put him all over the line. He can play anywhere. And he seems to be a guy that's just, I know he took a penalty in the game, but that was one of those things. It's one of those new penalties now to crack back. I mean, Allen was running, and then there's a guy chasing him. So Feliciano, that's your natural reaction as a football player, is to try to help out your quarterback. Daniel Gowries, he comes in the chat. He says, "I like that plan, Mario, but I don't see the coaches moving Spain. He's been consistent at left guard since he showed up at One Bills Drive." It's number one. That I just stole Paul's plan. That was what Paul wanted to do. I'm in agreement with it, but you know what? If it comes to having the best five guys out there, I don't care if somebody started in camp. I really don't. It doesn't matter to me. I want the best five guys in front of Josh Allen running this offense and having more consistency. The one thing that we saw out of this Bills offense that we haven't seen before, and I'll just scroll down to see it, 4 out of the 5 guys on the line played 100% of the snaps. One of those guys being Morse, one of the guys we were concerned about. So this guy, they're starting to develop that continuity on the offense, regardless of who's there. They're starting to develop that consistency there, with Cody Ford playing 54% and Ty Nasecki playing 46% of those snaps at right tackle. So that was the only change you saw, and with that consistency, we'll build confidence and chemistry.
And I do want to point out that Devin Singletary, if you don't think the Bills are trying to make Devin Singletary their starting running back, then you're really missing the boat here, because they're doing everything they can to make Devin Singletary their starting running back. So you mentioned snap counts. Frank Gore played 27% of the snap counts. Devin Singletary played 69.5% of snap counts.
Yes.
Which is, again, something that we never would have thought this early in the season that Singletary would outpace Gore as high as he did. TJ Yeldon, 2.9% of the offensive snap count. Again, so there you go. Patrick DeMarco outsnapped Frank Gore by almost twice as many snaps. Like this is the way it's going. But remember, Devin Singletary comes from a zone blocking scheme in college, and these things make a very big difference. So going to an interior scheme across the line is going to make him comfortable with transitioning to the NFL, because they're going to be similar looks to what he's seen before. And the Bills were successful in a zone blocking scheme with LaShawn McCoy a few years ago. That's when Aaron Kromer was the Bills offensive line coach. OG Bobby Johnson comes in. The Colts absolutely had run a zone blocking system before. So you kind of see the pieces of this all coming together, right? The Bills had been successful running the football in zone previously, but all those guys are gone now. right? The team that made up a successful zone blocking scheme under when LaShawn McCoy was running back this football team a few years ago, they're all gone. So it is important to remember that they're doing everything they can to make Devin Singletary successful. I mean, he didn't get many carries, which is kind of par for the course with the Sean McDermott team, right? He's not
Yeah,
going to give the rookie a lot of run.
he's going to earn it. Yeah.
Yeah, he's got to earn it, but it's just a matter of time, man. And Singletary looked good. I think he got a little excited when he started breaking down. When as soon as he got inside the 10-yard line, he's like, I'm about to score my first touchdown. And he set up a move that just simply was not going to work. I don't know.
15 yards ahead of time. Yeah, he set that up a little too early.
I don't know what he was doing. He tried to set up a move that he did not need to set up because I thought he was in the end zone.
Well, I think it's fair to mention too, Paul, is that the timing that Singletary was breaking those runs, the Jets were up 16-0. I think we need to really make that point because that was a point you and I drove home many years ago in our podcast days when everyone was just so in love with CJ Spiller and saying, why isn't he running the ball more? Why is he running the ball more? Look what he does. Well, a lot of those times when he was breaking runs in the second half, the Bills are down 14, 17 points. So they just play a little bit different style of defense. Now, going back to the beginning point that we talked about with Brian Daboll, he says it's going to be very team specific of what he's going to run, which is the Earnhardt Perkins system. I mean, I talked till I'm blue in the face about that system and how he brought it over from New England. We've seen New England in games throw 45 times. We've seen them run 45 times. Could the possibility that he was taking that thought process in against the Jets with such a formidable front seven is the reason why DeMarco played almost 50% of the offensive snaps?
I support nothing that has Patrick DeMarco playing. 50%.
I'm just saying, take a step back and give me an objective opinion about it. If they thought the front seven was going to be a problem for this offensive line that hasn't played a lot of time together, having an extra fullback in there is something that, and not having a tight end.
Well, yeah, I think that's the difference. You're looking at your tight ends, and Lee Smith is the only one who's ever started a game in the NFL.
Yeah.
You know, so I think having DeMarco gives you that versatility for right now. Would I like to see Knox and Sweeney involved more? Sure, but I mean, let's not forget that it takes most NFL wide receivers 2 to 3 years to get proficient at running routes and reading zones and understanding their responsibility. And that's just guys running routes. Tight ends have a totally different approach because not only do they have to know when they need to block, how they need to shed, they also need to be able to read linebacker coverage. And these linebackers don't all play man. So it's a very different world for a tight end coming over. It's really hard to expect them to be successful right away. So that's why I'm looking forward to a return of Tyler Kroft at some point. But I am hopeful for Knox and Sweeney to be able to come out and take up 4 or 5 targets a game. But I wouldn't expect more than that.
No, not right now. Not right now.
Yeah, not right at this second.
No, you're doing that to try to keep teams honest in that respect. So if you start throwing to the tight end maybe 3 or 4 times a game, you're just trying to keep them honest. Maybe bring those guys in the box a little more with the threat of going to the tight end, because that seems to be the narrative around the NFL right now. If you feel like the team is going to go against this team or this player or do this and that, that's when you start hitting them, and that's when the big plays actually open up for you. Just to scroll up a little bit through the chat, I just want to go through a couple of the comments here. Pierre Martinez, he says, I think we should limit Singletary to watch out for wear and tear. That's obviously a big thing. I mean, if you've seen a lot of the running backs that come out their rookie year, because they don't play as many games as they do, they play more games than they do in college. That's an evident. We've seen it with Leonard Fournette. We saw it with a lot of these rookie running backs that come out that they just get gassed. Sean Payton was actually one of the guys that he was very smart with Alvin Kamara his rookie year. He didn't play him enough until the 4th, 5th game of the year. That could have been of, as to quote Paul a lot of times, the fee for the ride of trying to play with Drew Brees is an expensive one.
It's the admission to the park. If you're going to quote me, at least get it right. Yeah, it's the admission to the park.
The admission to the park is very high if you want to play with Drew Brees. So it could have been that he was still learning the offense, or he just didn't want to gas Kamara out early in the year. Mm-hmm. By having such a limited pitch count, I guess you could say, for Singletary, I think is a good thing. I mean, you have a three-headed monster back there, and Yeldon, Gore, and him. You don't want to gas the kid out too early, but then again, he still needs to learn this offense, and he's a volume runner. So you're going to have to be very careful in how you work those numbers for Singletary, Gore, and Yeldon if he plays more than 3% of the game.
I know. I do want to just call out real quick from the chat that the gang is all here. So thanks everybody. We got Donnybrook, we got Jablonski, Sean Munley.
Yes.
We get Victor, we've got Daniel Garies, James Sanders, Big Spence is here catching us live for the first time in a long time.
So what we should do.
Chris Spencer is new to the group. Take it easy on him. Schuler's here. Pierre Martinez. There's just a bunch of my favorites.
So what we should do is we're gonna do a selfless plug for #Nation right now, Paul. We got to do it.
Yeah,
we definitely got to do it. So those of you that have been recent subscribers to the channel, number one, thank you for coming to ride with us. This usually isn't our normal format. We're usually in the car on Tuesdays and Thursdays throughout the season, but Sunday was such a up and down roller coaster ride anyway. So next week we will definitely be in the car. You'll have episodes on Tuesday and Thursday with us in the car. But you got an awesome community of people that just love talking football and more so love talking about the Buffalo Bills. So you guys joined a great channel, and we have a lot of fun here at #Sports, and #Nation is just the best. So our hats off to the nation for tonight.
So there was something that was brought up. Let's say there's actually a few new people in the chat. CR, PTCY Press, and Chris Misevsky. It's got to be close.
It ends in a ski. You should be able to pronounce that, Paul.
This was brought up during the post game. And I saw it in the comment section of the post game. I thought it was an awesome comment. I don't remember who said it, but Victor actually mentioned. So he said that the Bills had 4 rookies making their first start, and yeah, you're right, they did, which is kind of a high number, seeing as though the entire defense doesn't have a single one, right? So that should tell you something with where the Bills are, but. We talk about, Singletary is a rhythm runner, right? And you do want to kind of limit his exposure, right? His usage. Frank Gore is, again, a volume runner. Shady was a volume runner. Devin Singletary, a volume runner. These are guys that you need to get the ball early and often. But what if the approach was to get Allen the volume to get comfortable, right? So what if that approach was let's just get him going. If we can get him 5, 6, 7 in a row, right, he'll be fine the rest of the game. He can manage the rest of the game. What if the approach to throw as often as they did early in the game was not at the risk of like getting the running backs in rhythm, but it was to get the quarterback in rhythm to manage the rest of the game.
I guess that could have been a possibility.
I agree with it. I don't know if I agree with it or not, but I think it's a good conversation.
No, it's a great conversation because you're thinking of, I think you zigged when you should have zagged on that one type of scenario where, you think because it's such a young quarterback, because they invested a pick in Devin Singletary, because you got Frank Gore, who's a hammer, perhaps that's their mentality of trying to, like, they weren't playing a high-flying offense, so the need to run the ball and keep the ball away from like the Kansas City Chiefs or the LA Rams or something to that effect. I don't count the Baltimore Ravens because they were playing an XFL team. But the point is, you didn't want to. Maybe they were trying to do something a little bit different to give other teams. Hey, the Bills came out and threw, this many times in a row. It could have been a double. It could have been, twofold. They could have said, listen, we're giving Allen development and trying to read. We're playing the Jets, who we think is a very winnable game. Both teams are going to come out slow because of everything that was going on in the preseason. There's second-year quarterbacks, a lot of new offensive linemen. There were striking similarities between the Jets and the Bills. So, you're trying to give him that experience. I could see that point being made. And the other thing is you're letting the other 31 teams know, or more specifically, the rest of the season, the other 15 games that you have, is that you're saying that, okay, this is a possibility of the Bills. They can come out and throw on us 17 times in a row, so we have to equip our defense in such a way to handle that. So you may get some teams that come out and nickel immediately. And so therefore what happens? The Bills start running the ball 6 or 7
Right.
times. So it could be a little sleight of hand in that respect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's sort of an interesting thing to bring up when you go back and kind of look at what this defense did. The defense blitzed a ton compared to what we're used to seeing Leslie Frazier blitz.
38%.
Which is a huge number. Normally they're closer to like the high teens, low 20s, right? So that was a big number for them. But let's not make a mistake. This is Leslie Frazier's defense, right? Leslie Frazier's defense, not Sean McDermott's defense. And since they have an entire returning crew, you have now, at this point, as of the close of Sunday, you have 17 games of that defense on film. So every team in the NFL knows your personnel. They know what you like to do. They know your tendencies. They know your defense in and out, because how often do you get the exact same defense coming back? Never. You never get the exact same defense coming back in the NFL anymore. Not in the free agency era. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's not 1998.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It just doesn't happen anymore. So the fact that the Bills are blitzing a lot and changing the way that they're doing things, like we didn't often see Kyle line up in a true nose. We saw Oliver line up in a true nose, on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But you're seeing different wrinkles being added in because the Bills have to be different. They have to approach this season differently because they need to put stuff on tape that they've never done before. They need to be creative because, again, there's teams that they know what this defense is about. And while they were ranked really high, you could exploit them in the run last year. And the Bills are trying to put stuff on film now that says, listen, you don't know what we're about yet. We're going to come in and we're going to control this game, and we're going to put pressure on you, and we're going to simulate pressure. There was a bunch of times they lined up seven guys down, and they only blitzed 4. They only brought 4 guys. The defense is challenged to give different looks.
Yeah, they are, because like you hit the nail right on the head, Paul. I don't think that's a point that a lot of people are making with this Buffalo Bills defense, is that they have been played together for so long, for 17 games minus Kyle Williams and Oliver. I guess you could say Levi Wallace too, because he only started the last 7. But when you talk about a team that, if we could just go to the defensive side of the ball just for a second, just merely on snap counts, you're talking about Edmonds, Milano, White, Wallace, Hyde, and Poyer that played all 100% of the snaps. Those are the only guys that played 100% of the snaps. You got Jordan Phillips played 34. Star Lotulelei played 42. Harrison Phillips played 33. Oliver played 65, which I thought was high for him. Hughes played 70. Trent Murphy played 79. Shaq Lawson played 31, while Daryl Johnson played 18% of the snaps. So you have a rookie 7th rounder coming in playing more than half of what Shaq Lawson played. And that just goes to tell you that, I don't know, it could be one of those things where they're shifting out of Lawson. But even when Lawson was in there, I mean, what that means for your defense is you're keeping guys fresh, you're rotating them in. But the different looks that I love that Frazier put on tape for the rest of the games that they're going to have to play, in the first 4 games, I think, are the most important for the Bills. I mean, no doubt about that. But the game's not win in the season is not won in September. We need to remember that. But you can do yourself a service by starting to give all these other teams different looks, and then right when they start to study all those different looks, then you revert back to your bread and butters. You know what I mean? Oh, we're going to play zone. We're going to play 4 straight across, and we're just going to rush you. We're going to fake a blitz, a double A gap blitz up the middle with Edmonds, and we're going to drop out of there.
Right.
But I agree. I don't believe Oliver should drop in coverage anymore. But
oh my God, no.
But to your point, I believe Kyle Williams picked off Cutler dropping into coverage one time. So it could happen. It could happen. but no, to your point, teams got to play for that now. They have to devote practice time to that. The Bills could never do it the rest of the year, but teams are going to practice against it now. So that's one of the little wrinkles, the little cat and mouse game that you play with the NFL as far as offense and defense go.
Mm-hmm.
So if I had to ask you, we got some Q&As coming in. Shaq looked fantastic. Mitchell Doherty, I agree. I when he was in there, he looked awesome. Jordan Sidikowski, he's a Q&A. Why are Hyde and Poyer so underrated and overlooked?
I want to back that up real quick
Okay, go ahead.
because this kind of ties into Chris Spencer's comment. Do you think we bring Lafayette Pitts back since Teron Johnson hurt, or can we just plug in Kirk Coleman? So all this kind of plays into factor for me, right?
Okay.
So to answer all those at one time, right? Teron Johnson got hurt because he got run over by Le'Veon Bell the entire first half of the game. That's why Teron Johnson got it, because he couldn't tackle Le'Veon Bell. If you go back and watch that game, you'll see Bell knock about 4 years off his life a bunch of times. That happens, right? It happens. So Teron Johnson going down does change things a little bit because he's a true corner, right? So when you start talking about Hyde and Poyer and you start looking at corner depth, well, now it starts getting a little shady on this team because they went very safety heavy, right? So you do have Kirk Coleman. You could bring him down, but again, he's a true safety. You do not want Micah Hyde down. Jordan Poyer, I guess, would be your best option to bring down. But I think you have to start looking at who your cornerback options are. And to me, that's Kevin Johnson now as your slot corner. I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel here. You want to keep Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. You want to keep that tandem together. You don't want to ask them to start playing different roles. I'm not saying Kirk Coleman comes in to play the slot corner role because I'm not interested in that, right? I'm interested in Kevin Johnson coming down to play that slot corner role. That I'll buy a ticket to that show. But I do not want a safety coming down to play
No.
slot corner.
No, I am going to adamantly disagree with you, my friend.
Oh, I love this. Please continue.
Well, the reason why I don't think that you would do that is because of the injury history. Now, we all know that Coleman may not be the best option, and Daniel Gowers even brings up, why not bring Captain Munnerlyn back? Maybe that could be an option because he's usually playing on the outside. He can be a guy. I love that idea, or the idea of that. I love. I don't think you bring Kirk Coleman because he's more of a hammer and he's more of a guy that directs traffic. So if Coleman's a guy that you want, I put him high and put Poyer down. I can understand that, but putting a guy who coming into the season had question marks about his injury history and putting him in the mesh and in the box, I think you're just risking another. I mean, there's a reason why Teron Johnson got hurt. He was in the mesh. He was in the mush. And if you know that they're going to throw, then obviously Kevin Johnson is your best option to cover the corner, to cover the slot. But if you don't think they're going to throw, and people start thinking that, hey, they're starting to put Johnson on the slot receiver, let's run to his side because this guy has an injury history. He may not stick his nose in there just like the other cornerbacks will. Neal will, but Neal, where Johnson is more better in coverage, Neal's better in the run game. So yeah. I think Poyer gives you that nice balance of both to drop down in the box. But then again, what happens if you have an injury to Milano? Because
if I see Cyril Neal in a slot corner role, if I'm Eli Manning, I'm looking at whoever's playing the slot, and I'm like, just run a 9 route. Just go.
It's going to be Evan Ingram.
Yeah, so. Well, that's what I mean. Cyril Neal in coverage scares the hell out of me. I thought he was really, really weak. Who said that? Somebody just said that in the chat, too. They thought Cyril Neal was really weak in coverage. He was the weak link. Who said that? It was just a few comments ago. Donnybrook. Yeah, I agree. Cyril Neal was a sore thumb to me. Really was. Super sore thumb. I do want to bring up that we got asked if the Bills would be a good pick. If we see this, and I see somebody, Big Spence put in that the Giants game is a trap game. I completely disagree. I'm so confident in the Bills. You know what I'm going to do, Mario? I got my cell phone right here for the hashtag Nation Survivor pool. I'm taking the Bills right now. Boom, locked in. I'm taking the Bills over the Giants for the hashtag Survivor pool. I'll share my pick. There it is, right there. See, right there. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Just lock it in. Lock it in. What?
Way to go, buddy.
What?
Way to jinx the Bills.
Oh, come on. Jablonski said the same thing.
I know. I was copying him.
Okay.
Doesn't Paul, Big Spence, doesn't Paul lose every bet? He does. He does. No, he also has a couple day ball. He's got a few bets that Paul's not a gambler by any means, but
No.
I don't understand this. He goes lock it in.
That's it.
New England's the pick for Survivor. Christmas. Um, so I mean, we're nearing the end of this. We're near the end of this stream. If we're talking about the offense, Paul, and I know,
Yeah.
it's hashtag Nation. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I think the last time I saw it, there was like 85 people in here at one time. It's so late at night, and I can't believe you guys joined us. But it's so humbling that you guys do this, and you're the reason that we're up late at night doing all this and all this stuff anyway. But I just want to say the offense for the Buffalo Bills, minus obviously turnovers, against the Giants, where Dak Prescott threw for 400 yards. A lot of, the Giants tried blitzing every which way against them. They have a totally new revamped defense. They have a new secondary pretty much. So what is something that you want to see from the Buffalo Bills against the New York Giants that would give you kind of like, okay, they're moving in the right direction now? What do you want to see against the Giants? I know we're going to do our official thing on Thursday, but I just want to say, what's one of those things you want to see with this Bills offense?
So, man, what's a good way for me to phrase this?
Oh boy.
I want to see the Bills control the line of scrimmage in the run game. That's what I want. And I know that, they came out and they threw 19 consecutive passes. I get that, right? They were trying to open up the run game by taking pressure out of the box, because that's what they felt they needed to do for whatever reason, right? They thought they could exploit the exterior of the Jets defense and just pass. And okay, that approach was tried. Okay, I'm certainly not going to dispute that. We all experienced it. I would prefer never to have to go through that again, but that's me. So personally, I want to see them control the line of scrimmage against in the run game. And I think this is a defense that you can do that on. I think as soon as you can get 6 in the box, that is when Allen will take over, because he does a really good job of buying himself time. So I think if you can get 6 in the box, and kind of, get your guys in single coverage, then that's where Allen's going to make his money. I know that the Bills were really focusing on all these short underneath routes, but against a team like the Giants, I think you could take him deep. You could take him any way you want, but you have to run the football to do that. I would prefer to see a little more TJ Yeldon right now. Please don't put me over the coals for that. Because I want to see more Devin Singletary as we get through the season, and I do get concerned about burnout with rookie running backs. It's a major problem for me. And I know we all want to see Singletary because he's a game breaker, but you have these other running backs in the roster right now for a reason. You got to give them a little bit of a chance. So I got to see that offensive line control the run game. I did not see them do that, but it wasn't Devin Singletary.
So if there was one thing that I wanted to see, because I always like to base it off of, I'm almost like the offensive quality control guy, because I was watching a lot of tape of the Giants versus the Cowboys. So you think about it, the Cowboys had Ezekiel Elliott, Randall Cobb. They have very speedy wide receivers that can get open. So you start talking about a lot of those guys that are going on with the Dallas Cowboys. The Giants chose to blitz. The defensive coordinator that the New York Giants have, it's the second year that he's been there. He was with Bruce Arians for 3 years in Arizona. Now, the reason why his defense was successful in Arizona is because Arizona was like 2nd and 5th in scoring for 2 years that he was there. So his defense plays a lot off of the offense. So that's one of the things you have to be really concerned about. That when you have a defense that plays off of the offense, it could be very risky for your team if your offense doesn't get off to a good start. So he has the defense that's built and assembled to play with a lead. So if the Buffalo Bills are able to score points and score points quick, then this defense may just crumble under the weight of its own, defensive coordinator, and the Bills are going to be able to put up even more points from that. We saw that with the Cowboys. The Cowboys were able to do that against the Giants. So, but all that being considered, the Giants still blitzed multiple times, and when you blitz, you have to play man behind that. So now you have a quarterback and a running back that could tear you apart if you decide to blitz, who can get out of the pocket. They don't have the same front seven that the New York Jets do. So that's one of the reasons why they were blitzing so much, to try to get to Prescott and try to keep Elliott in the box and everything. So as a result of that, Prescott was able to find open wide receivers. What I would like to I would like to see the Bills run a little bit more, but if the Giants are going to take the same mindset against Buffalo as they did against Dallas, then I wouldn't mind Allen putting up about 4 bills and throwing 4 touchdowns. I don't think anybody else would mind that at all. But if we end up seeing that, I think that's progress in the right direction. Oh, they blitz Prescott, he throws for 400. I'm not expecting Allen to throw for 400, but if he's able to hit his wide receivers while they're trying to bring pressure on him to try to say, hey, listen, zone doesn't work against this guy, man doesn't work against this guy, let's try blitzing him, try bringing more guys off of the edges against Allen and see how he takes that. I wouldn't be against that. I really wouldn't be against the Bills throwing in that scenario if the Giants want to try to blitz Allen and try to bring more pressure against this offensive line that is still learning.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're still learning each other. And, it's, again, I just want to harken back quickly when we look at the Ed Oliver versus Devin Singletary, right? We're looking at two very different things because they're both rookies, right? So just take a look real quick at snap counts. Ed Oliver played 65% of the snap counts, and so did Devin Singletary. Ed Oliver, if you're looking across DTs, Starr played 41, Jordan Phillips played 34, Harrison Phillips played 33. So those are your primary DTs, and Ed Oliver took them all as far as snap count goes. So they wanted to get these kids exposure early. It will not be often. I'm telling you right now, they are going to have to put a governor on what the snap count of these kids are, because you come from college and you don't stop, right? Your body is getting no rest. They start training for the combine, and then they get drafted and they go immediately to work at team facilities, and their bodies don't ever get a break. So the Bills have an early bye, right? Which is great because you'll get those rookies finally a little bit of rest. But that's really not much. You get a week. That's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you kind of have to temper expectations. I thought Ed Oliver did everything that the Bills could have asked of him to do. Right. I thought he played really well. I can't be upset with the way that he played. I thought he played really well. Devin Singletary, I thought looked great, but I have very serious concerns if these guys maintain 60 to 70% snap counts through week 7, 8, through weeks 4, weeks 5, into weeks 7 and 8. If they continue to see that high snap count, I just think we're just going to see them burn at the end of the season, and that's a major concern.
Yeah. So listen. Those of you that may be watching that aren't subscribers yet, please subscribe to the channel. Please go check us out over on Sportscaster. We're going to have a better audio setup the next time we broadcast. Joe from Believers Talk will be doing the broadcast for #sports this weekend. We are going to do our customary postgame this weekend, along with we're going to have videos for you next week from the vehicle. We haven't had those in such a long time. I can't wait. Right? I can't wait to do that. That's going to be fun. The other thing that Eric Jablonski, by the end of the year, Mario, what underwear will be on your head when Dable is hero? Well, hopefully not his, because it'll be a gas mask if I put his underwear on my head. But I will say this, as far as the Giants go, and I'll just leave you guys with this before we get to our we're going to do a stream on Thursday as well. The New York Giants, when they first got the ball, they marched the ball down the field and ended up scoring. We all know, like Paul and I heavily touted Pat Shurmur for his play calling abilities. they took the ball right down the field and scored on the Cowboys. When they got the ball in the second half, they took the ball down the field and they had an unsightly penalty, and they ended up kicking 3 points. So 10 of their 17 points was due to quality control and making adjustments. So if the Buffalo Bills can make the adjustments better than Shermer can and the offensive coordinator for the Giants, then this game, they may win this game by 20. I'm just saying, but they have to try to weather the storm early because the Giants are going to be home. They're going to try to get away from the embarrassing loss to a division rival. So that's going to be on their minds heavily. Even though it'll be the second game the Bills play there, and it'll be the Giants first. The Giants are still going to be at home. So we're going to talk more about the Buffalo Bills defense and give you some of our predictions on Thursday. And then be sure to join us Saturday morning on Sportscaster for our preview of the game. We're going to give you our preview of the game. Not really sure how long that's going to be. It'll be a nice Saturday morning talk with you guys at 8 a.m. Paul and I will have our coffee fresh and ready. So for those of you that decided to join the stream tonight, thank you, and go Bills, right, Paul?
Yep, go Bills.